I need a 30 for 30 to show that I'm different like Jordan and Pippen, you bitch. I need a 30 for 30 like Jalen and Weber. Nobody gon' fuck on my clique. I need a 30 for 30. All right, y'all, I'm happy to have the pulse of Cowboy Nation here with me again. My brother, Ray Cesar Leo, for another edition of How About Them Cowboy with Ray. What's happening, man?
Back again one more time, man. Always a pleasure.
Man, you already know what it is, dog. So, what were your thoughts on the game last week? I shouldn't say last week, yesterday.
Yeah, pretty much, what I expected. I did not expect us to win that game. No matter how much rest we had, no matter how much, how little rest the Ravens had. It's just it was what I expected. I expected us to hang around for a half. And then at the end of the day, the Ravens, become the Ravens. And not saying that they're an excellent team, but they're good enough to beat us. And, long story short, that's what happened.
When I was watching that, man, I was watching it, and I think I texted you about that. Andy Dalton didn't look bad.
No, he didn't. He didn't. And, for the most part, Andy Dalton has not played bad games. He may have had some unproductive games. What I mean by that, his stat line may not have been as impressive as you would want it to be. But he hasn't had really bad games. Has had bad games? The entire defense. At the end of the day, the Dallas Cowboy defense has played one game that's worthy of mentioning. And that's when they played against the Steelers. And I guess you could say they play with a little bit of pride, or they just want to, hand the Steelers their first L. And that's why they played so hard. Whatever the case, man, that was the only game where they looked like professionals. Every other game, they've been trash. And that's not just me saying it. The stats justify that. Last in the league in points allowed per game, last in the league in rushing yards per game. And you saw that, man. The Ravens had 400 yards of total offense, 294 yards rushing. That tells me that even if you load the box, they were still saying to themselves, we're going to run the ball. Because at the end of the day, they only threw for like 117 yards, I want to say. I can't remember those final stats.
It wasn't much.
But it wasn't much. So they said to themselves, it doesn't matter how many you put in the box, we're still going to run it and run it down your throat, to be quite honest with you. So at the end of the day, man, the Cowboys defense is historically bad. Historically bad. It won't go down as the worst statistically, because at the end of the day, they haven't given up as many points as other teams have. But dude, they're bad. They're really, really bad. There should be some guys on that defense that should give money back, because that's how bad they are. But the reality of the matter is, these are the guys that we're stuck with for right now.
Well, let me pull your coat on this then.
Yeah.
I got CD Lamb.
Yep.
I know you talked about how you think CD should be in consideration for Rookie of the Year.
Sure.
Other Cowboy fans that I see in the media, they very high on CD as well. But given the fact that y'all are last in the league in points per game, and you said last in the league in rushing yards per game.
Yep.
Do you think it was the right move to take CD with that pick, or would have liked to see y'all get another stud defender?
No, I was really okay with the draft. I really was. And you know me, I don't really like to give Jerry Jones a lot of credit, but I was okay with the draft. That draft class had stud wide receivers, guys that are going to be game changers after this year. What I mean by that, I just wrote these guys down. Henry Ruggs over there with the Raiders, right? He's going to be a stud. Judy with the Broncos is going to be a stud. Jefferson with the Vikings is already a stud, right? He's putting up Pro Bowl-like numbers in his rookie year, and CeeDee Lamb is in that same class. As a matter of fact, the only rookie that's having a better year is Jefferson with Minnesota. 61 catches, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns in 12 games. CD has 59, 696, and 4 touchdowns in 12 games. So you don't pass on talent like that, because you got to look beyond this year. CeeDee Lamb is going to be a stud receiver for years to come in this league after we're done with Amari Cooper, right? Like once he's done and gone, CeeDee Lamb can be a staple in your offense. They drafted defensive guys. Trevon Diggs from Alabama, the brother of Stephon Diggs that now is in Buffalo, plays DB for us. So they addressed one of our weaknesses, which was the secondary. Our secondary is worse than the run defense last year. So they addressed that. Just hasn't panned out. He's missed a couple of games too, and he's got burned a couple of times too as well. You got to point that out. And in the 4th round, if I'm not mistaken, they drafted a defensive lineman from Oklahoma that just didn't pan out. That's just bad scouting. He just hadn't been available, and he's not been productive for the few times that he's been in the game. So Jerry Jones addressed those things. He tried to address the defense and address the offense when you saw a game-changing playmaker out there. It just hadn't worked out. The mistake is not on drafting a defensive player this year. The mistake is on paying guys that are not worth what you think they're worth. Okay. I love Jalen Smith.
That's where I was going.
I love Jalen Smith as a man, as a leader, right? And as a competitor. Dude goes hard every play. He really does. He will compete. He's not afraid to mix it up. He's a smart young man. Devastating injury in college and worked his tail off to get to the point he is right now. And that's a really good linebacker. But he's not an all-pro linebacker, and we're paying him like one, right? Mm-hmm. I respect Tank Lawrence to a certain extent. I don't think he's a top-tier defensive lineman, but I think he plays hard. I think he competes. I think he wants to be great. But regardless of what I think, you're paying him like he's Aaron Donald. You can't do that. You're paying him like J.J. Watt. Regardless of what I think, I don't pay those people like I think. You know what I mean? And that's the problem with Jerry Jones. He pays these guys off a heart and not off a head. And that's the position we're in now. Some of that is injury too. Don't get me wrong. Some of that is injury, man. When we talk about the defense, again, Gerald McCoy, who is a solid defensive lineman. He's not the Gerald McCoy of old, but he's a solid defensive lineman. He got hurt before our season even started. You know what I mean? So we've had injuries before the season even started that dictate how we're playing right now. That's not an excuse. That's just a reality. Other guys need to step up, but at the end of the day, the end result is the defense is warm trash.
So I'm glad you brought up Jalen Smith, because that's what I was about to ask you about in terms of when I think about run defense, I think about interior defensive linemen, your defensive tackles.
Yeah.
Think about your linebackers and probably like your strong safety. You know, they might come down and give support in the run game. Now, you mentioned Jalen Smith. What are your thoughts on your tackles? Or Van Der Esch? Because that was a guy who everybody was like, this next Sean Lee.
Yeah.
What are you getting out of your defensive backs in terms of helping out in the run game, particularly your strong safety?
Yeah, Van Der Esch is definitely taking a step back. Part of that is injury, but he's just injury prone. He was injury prone in college, which is why Jerry Jones was able to pick him up. He had a solid year last year, rookie of the year caliber, because he played every game, and you got the chance to see a guy who's like 6'3", 255, but can run like the wind. He was in every game, but the reality of the matter is he's always hurt. That's what's happening this year, and now he's back. His rhythm is off. And he's just being exposed. Jalen Smith, again, is a solid linebacker, man. I do not want to disrespect this guy's performance at all. I think he had like 12 tackles against the Ravens. So he's willing to mix it up. He's not shying away from contact.
Like on that long run.
Yes, the gap was wide open.
Van Der Esch is the one that looked like he got out of position.
You see too much of that. A lot of that is, if I want to give these guys an excuse, a lot of that is they're playing in a new defense. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of this stuff is they're learning on the fly because there was no offseason, right? Mm-hmm. But then some of this, man, you have to be a professional. And you have to realize you played football your entire life. And if you realize there's a gap there, get to it. Get to it, man. You can't let the Red Sea open up and a guy go in untouched. Man, there were some runs last night where I literally said to myself, I could run through that. I could get 10 yards on that. I can't game break it like the Ravens were, right? Like with Lamar Jackson and Robbins and those guys. I can't do that, but I could pick up 10 yards. That's how wide the holes were open. That is a matter of effort. That is a matter of you just saying, all right, they've gashed us now for 10 to 20 yards. I'm just not going to let them run that play anymore. They were repeating plays, man. They weren't doing like fancy stuff. You hear Lamar Jackson talk all season about defenses calling out their play before the play happens, right? Them being too predictable. Well, it didn't matter. It didn't matter last night. It was just see the play, it worked, do it again because we know they can't stop it.
So even in a loss, then want to find some kind of silver lining, some kind of
positive
from it. So even in that, who was your Cowboy of the week?
Me, because I sat there and watched that entire game. What you mean? That's easy. Me and any other Cowboy fan that is still watching right now. Point blank period. Listen, man, nobody on that field deserves credit for anything that happened last night. Because not only was it an L, you just proved that like you had 12 days off and you still didn't have anything to show for it, right? And the Dalton played an all right game, but like, all right, right? CD Lamb, who I'm high on, had like 4 catches for 44 yards.
Did Zeke look a little better to you? I thought
No,
Zeke looked a little bit. No,
no.
brother.
I mean, he looked okay. He looked okay. But there are plenty of people who can look okay. Hey, man, you don't pay somebody that much money to look okay.
Right.
Right? You pay people to look great.
I
Especially
guess I'm comparing it to the last week where he got me
yeah,
1 point in fantasy, and this week
absolutely.
he did well. But you're
Absolutely.
comparing it to the Zeke you're used to, and
I'm
what you
just
paid him,
I'm
how you
just
paid him.
I'm comparing it to a guy who should have 100 yards. And I get the guys are stacking the box, but man, you know, you getting 80 yards, like that doesn't help us win. That doesn't even help you look like a top tier running back. Even if you want to be selfish and say, I'm gonna get mine, right? No, you still look like an average running back. So no, the cowboy of the night is Ray Coleman and the rest of the Cowboy Nation who sat through and watched that entire game start to finish. My wife, my son, our homeboy Patty, anybody who watched the game who's a Cowboys fan, shout out to you. You're the player of the game.
Shout out to Cowboys Nation. Well, it really no need for me to ask who needs to do better in Big T here, because sound like everybody that went out there with a stone in their helmet need to do better.
Everybody needs to do better, but you know who I won't ride this week? Mike McCarthy.
Whoa, breaking news.
I won't ride Mike McCarthy. Now he still needs to be fired, but last week, none of that falls on him. And I mean that. Game planning, situational football, everything worked out like it was supposed to. You know what I mean? I really do think it's like I said last week and how you and I talked about it all the time. Head coaches are supposed to put their teams in successful positions. I think he did that. I think he got his team into the red zone a bunch of times. I think he managed the game well. We missed a ton of kicks. You know what I mean? Like our special teams game was horrid. So Mike McCarthy, for one time at least, Ray Coleman's not going to give him a hard time, man. At the end of the day, I think the guy did his job as a head coach. Now, he hasn't done his job the entire season. He has let his team down countless times, but this is the one time where they let him down. The defense, man, did not show up at all. The offense was, average. The special teams was pedestrian at best, and that's what you get. That's what you get. I am disappointed that we are. I don't even know what week we're in. Man. I just know we're toward the end of the season, and I haven't seen any growth in our defense. Yes, it's a new defense under Coach Nolan, the defensive coordinator. But you also have to say to yourself, like, hey, man, you should be getting better every week. Mm-hmm. Even if you're not getting better in productivity, you should be getting better in the knowledge and your competitive spirit or something. It's all just like I'm watching from a couple of weeks ago. And that's bad. That's bad, man. If you're not getting better in the NFL, you're getting worse. There is no like middle ground. You're either getting better as you get towards the postseason or you're getting worse as you start to get ready for the draft. And the Cowboys are proving to me what they're doing. The Washington Football Club went out and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers because they're trying to get better, right? The New York Giants had Colt McCoy and are still tied for the divisional lead. They're trying to get better. The Cowboys aren't doing any of that. They're taking a step back every week where you're like, man, this is not the same squad that played against the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Like this is a totally different thing. I know what they're doing. I know. And to Jerry Jones, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for like putting on a good front. Right. But in reality, you're tanking. Now I don't know who you're tanking for because we don't have much tape on these guys from 2020 in college. You're not gonna get the young man Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson. So I don't know what you're doing. But I just appreciate that I should be around the top 5 when the draft comes around in 2021.
So I'm assuming you thinking versus the Bengals with no Burrow, y'all gonna find a way to let this one slip.
You know, a smart owner and GM would let this one slip. but this is one I can see us winning. And I haven't said that in a while because they don't have Joe Burrow. They don't even have a top tier AJ Green anymore. You know what I mean? Like they're like the equivalent to the Cowboys, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? They're just a team like meandering, looking around, trying to figure out their way. Except I know their way. Their way is a team that's at the bottom trying to work their way up because they just drafted a franchise quarterback that just had a horrific injury and is out for the season. Our franchise quarterback is out for the season too, but we're supposed to be better than that. You're supposed to be able to. I'm not saying, man, you're supposed to be able to go and like win the Super Bowl or
I
make
know
noise
what
in the
you're saying,
playoff,
because
but
y'all.
you're supposed to be able to plug in Andy Dalton and still look like a competitive football team.
Yes, as you said earlier this year, when Dak went down, you said y'all got the best backup in football, and I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked you about the defense then, because I'm like, okay, Andy Dalton looking all right. Seems like if everybody just do their job, you know what I'm saying, maybe y'all ain't gonna be what you could have been with Dak. But even with Dak, the defense was sucking so bad that, you know, he couldn't overcome that. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Going forward, it's some things got to change through the draft, or does Nolan make it to next year?
No, he doesn't, and he shouldn't. He and Mike McCarthy should go home together, man. He shouldn't be the defensive coordinator anyway. At least Mike McCarthy should be able to say, "I have earned another shot at being a head coach."
Well, you said Jerry not gonna let Mike go just because Jerry's ego.
Because of his ego. Because of his ego, man. So, you know, I don't know what kind of man McCarthy is. I don't know if he's like super loyal to his friends and he'll give Nolan another shot. But Nolan shouldn't be a defensive coordinator, man. Like he was bad before he came to the Cowboys. He's been historically bad. Like he hasn't put together a unit where it's like, oh yeah, I remember him like some of the defensive coordinators from the Ravens back in the day when Ray Lewis and those guys, Peter Boulware and those guys were playing. The coach that got fired 2 times ago, I can't think of his name right now, from the Falcons. He was a defensive coordinator with the Ravens, right? So you know what his pedigree is. You're like, okay, I can see why people give you a shot. Todd Bowles, the New York Jets coach, defensive mastermind. I get why they give you a shot. I don't know why they're giving Nolan a shot. Why? Give me a shot then. I guarantee you I can do no worse than the league.
That is true.
That is a fact.
That is very true.
That is a fact. Think about this for a second. I am very confident that I could do the same thing that Nolan's doing, and Nolan's getting paid. I don't know what he's getting paid, but it's surely a lot of money. He's getting paid a lot of money. Jerry Jones can call me today, and just out of the love of the Cowboys, what would be a super increase for me in salary would be a slap in the face of Nolan. Save you some money, Jerry. Give me a call. Give me a call, man. It's clear we're not working on game plans. I could show up a couple of days before the game and just talk to the guys and say, you know, let's go out here and do it.
Let's see there.
All right, I want to share this, you know, and I think Cowboy fans will kind of know where I'm going with this. Brother, you've heard me kind of, you know, explain like the injuries, man. And I don't want people to think that I'm making like an excuse, right? So if you're not a diehard Cowboys fan, or if you're not a person who's in the know of the Cowboys that just like keeps up with their roster and like the changes that have been made all year, I wanted to show this to y'all just to give you an idea what I'm saying when I talk about like they're missing key pieces and it just destroys the outlook of a team. Mm-hmm. Some of these names mean nothing to y'all, right? But in the grand scheme of things, it means everything. The first name, that's our 3rd, 4th round pick right there, right? That's our 3rd round pick. Mm-hmm. He actually had to start because the starting center got injured in the beginning of the season. Our starting center was starting for the first time because our all-pro center from last year retired. So think about that. That's technically my 3rd string center, right?
Right.
Lael Collins, right tackle, hadn't played at all. He was sat down once the season started because of an injury. Rookie cornerback Trevon Diggs missed half the season. That's a 2nd round draft pick. Tristan Hill is my 2nd round pick from 2 years ago, right? He's out. Mitch Hyatt, doesn't matter. Blake Jarwin is my starting tight end. Got hurt in game 1, tore his ACL in game 1. Right? Chris Jones is an all-pro punter. Done. Zach Martin, some say he's the best offensive guard in pro football.
Right.
Down. Just went down last week. Dak Prescott, y'all know who he is. Tyron Smith, all pro left tackle. Done.
Right.
So by my count, we're talking 3 offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, man, I keep saying that I feel like the games are won and lost on the offensive line and the defensive line.
Right.
Well, if you see that, that's a reality. As efficient as I think Andy Dalton can be, he can't be that efficient if he doesn't have time. You know, we can have a great wide receiving core, but if he doesn't have time to get it to them, doesn't matter. Ezekiel Elliott, I ride him all the time to say he should be doing it regardless. But the reality of the matter is, it's much easier to run when you got holes than when you don't, right? All of this is a culmination. And no, it's not a reason to bail Mike McCarthy out. I've had conversations with other Cowboys fans to say, oh, well, that's a reason to give him another shot. No, because if I know that, if I see that, and I can acknowledge that, then I should be able to make adjustments. I should be able to make adjustments and say, okay, then what can my team do to be successful? Ray may not be able to do that, but they don't pay Ray millions of dollars to get it right. They pay Mike McCarthy to get it right. So that's why I will end my portion, unless you got anything else for me, with let's be nicer about it. Let's not say fire Mike McCarthy. Let's say let's help him find another line of work.
Oh, I did want to ask you one more thing then.
Please.
Do you think Jerry Jones needs to, and I would say GMs throughout football?
Well, you know what I need Jerry Jones to do.
All right.
Go ahead.
Do you think Jerry Jones and just football GMs, period, need to value durability more?
Yes.
Because like you said, you say, okay, he took Van Der Esch. But I didn't know Van Der Esch had an injury history in college.
Yeah.
Because that's a red flag for me. If I'm Jerry Jones, I'm not getting him. Why? Because I just had this guy named Sean Lee, who when he's on the field for me, he's great. He's great. Quarterback of the defense, but he does not stay
one full season healthy. So no, I know what you mean. And
I'm gonna throw an analogy at you because I know you love boxing just like I love boxing. When you got a guy in boxing who's great, got a great jab, great cross, looks good, but he got no chin, just say he's not a good boxer.
That's right.
Because he ain't got no chin.
Ain't take a punch.
Well, I look at football like that as well, because it's violence. So you can have a high football IQ, you can run well, you be aggressive, you know what I'm saying, do all that kind of stuff. But if you're not durable, if you can't take the licks and come on out here, you're not a good football player.
Some of these guys are overachievers too, man. You know, we got to be real about it. Van Der Esch is not a first-round draft pick. I think he was like a 3rd or a 4th. So in that sense, as much as I hate to do it, you kind of give Jerry a little bit of credit because you find a diamond in the rough. You know what I mean? To say, man, if I can get real value out of him, if he can stay healthy, that I can get production where Van Der Esch is in the same class, at least his rookie year, with the linebacker from the Colts, Darius Leonard. You know, they were going back and forth for defensive rookie of the year. Now, Darius Leonard is clearly better, way better, right? This dude is an all-pro, but he's also on the field every week too to make those plays. That's the difference. It really is, man. You know, you can take chances on some guys in certain spots, in my opinion. I think Jerry did that. He got his money's worth the first year. This second year, he's going back to what he is. It is what it is. He is an injury-prone guy. Your hope is that you can get more value out of him as his career continues. I hate to look at it like that because it almost treats these guys like they're not human beings, but that's the reality in this business. You want to get the most value out of these guys before they start to break down. Van Der Esch is breaking down in his second year, and Jerry Jones is just hoping I can get him through this contract. If he doesn't make it to Jerry Jones, if he doesn't make it to a second contract, that's no loss on him, right? That's no loss on him. If I can get him to a second one and he's all pro, Pro Bowl status, then I won that particular draft pick.
Well, that's what it is, man. This is another edition of How About Them Cowboys with the pulse of Cowboy Nation. My brother Ray Caesar Leo. Appreciate you, boy.
We can't fire Jerry Jones, so we just have to wait. See y'all, man.
Go.
Go. Subscribe to our daddy's YouTube channel. He's the best. Hit the like button, turn on the notifications.